Okay, good morning, traders. I think we're live on YouTube. Somebody please give me a yes so we know we are actually live. Anybody from our group in there?
Yes, you're live.
Okay, thank you. So good morning once again. Let's start. Let's go. This morning we'll be looking at some of the trades we took yesterday afternoon, what you should have done with those. And again, if you see this by accident, join us this week. This entire week will be free and we'll be live during the London and the New York session. That's 8 a.m. London and 8 a.m. New York. So if you have the time and you want to learn what wave analysis is, please join us. You will see how we use that to take trade. What is more important, it is not the trades we take, but how the method works. Because if you understand this method, then it might help you in your trading, regardless of what you do. Right? That said, let's go. So one of the trade we were taking yesterday was the silver. The pattern did form. It did pull back. So we were waiting for a pullback here yesterday. And I think you got that pullback. That means you put the entry in above the top. You put a stop either here. It's a running flat or here. In the case of a running flat, you put a stop here and you're in the trade. This would be a second trade. So basically, if you're in my group, you would have closed the trade at the top here, right? You would have closed it because you could see that there's a possible running flat forming here, right? So you got one, you got a pullback, you got up, and you know there will be a pullback coming just like this. So that pullback, you could have closed the trade here when it starts to pull back and put an entry above the top, which is what you should do. So right now, it's still a possible trade. You could put another entry here, right? You could put an entry there, and you will treat it the same way. So at this point, I have to go with the disclaimer. We are not making trade calls. You should not take any of these trades if you don't know the rules of how we take the trade. And by rules, I mean rules for the strategy, what rules we include in the strategy, where your entry should be, where your stop should be, your money management, your risk management. If you also don't know the rules of trade management, which means should the trade not go, what would you do with it, right? And if you don't know what I mean by all of that, go watch the previous two videos I did yesterday. We explain in details what wave analysis is, what caused these waves, how they behave, how they form, how you can take advantage of them. And then you have to learn the rest when you join us, right? So that said, let's go. This would be a trade. And remember, the higher you go, especially when you start to see divergence forming here. I mean, there's so many things to it that I can't explain everything in every trade setup that I do. But like these are mostly what we do in our group on a daily basis, 3, 4, 5 times a day. But my traders, they're trained to do this. They know it. They know all the rules for everything. So they know what to look for and everything. When you start to see divergence here, you have to be cautioned. Divergence is never the end of the move. It's caution that that momentum is dying out. That's all. And at some point, you're either getting a deeper correction or a reversal. Now, you may ask, which one is it? Well, it depends on where you are on the bigger time frame. Where you're in the 4 hour. Are you expecting a pullback on the 4 hour? Are you expecting a pullback on the daily? On the one higher time frame. If you're expecting a pullback or a correction or a reversal in the higher time frame, that's most likely what you're going to get when you see divergence in the lower time frame. Now, I just realized I'm talking a little too fast. Not everybody in the room is English speaking, so I will have to slow down. I caught myself just doing that just now, so I'll slow down as best as I can, but naturally I speak very fast. So what we'll do is we'll go in the 4 hour and we'll see what do we think could happen in the 4 hour. Well, you can know what I'm doing if you see the lines I have. When you see a line like this, that tells you we're expecting a move back to the line and out of the line. When you see a line like this means that there is a pattern, which means eventually it goes down. But that pattern is at a much higher time frame. So if I go one more up, you'll see what I mean by that. See, when we go on the daily, you can see what the daily is showing you. That the trend is going up, but with the intention at some point you can come back to this trend line. Not necessary that you will, right? Like this one. But you could come back. Now, can we make this all the correction and this one goes out? I think that is pretty easy. You can assume that that is it. It's going to go out there. You can also assume that it's going to go a little higher and then it's going to come back to the bottom here. It could repeat this for as many times as possible. Eventually, you're going to get one clear pattern in there that goes out. See? So when we do forecasts in all different time frames. So, but you don't trade in all these time frames. Nobody is buying silver here in my group at least and holding it for the next 6 months, right? That's not the purpose of this. Purpose is if you buy silver today, you want to close it today. Right? So if you took that trade yesterday, you closed it yesterday. And if you're going to take this trade today, by the end of the day, you have to close it. Now, let's see if we're going to get one big spike or if we're going to get a small. If it starts doing these small moves with these correction there, that's a slow momentum. Sometimes you do that for a very long time, but most times it's not very long and you're going to get a deeper correction. In this up move also, you can realize that you had a correction here, you had a deeper correction here, right? What that means that you're looking for divergence there, but we don't have divergence. But at some point, this divergence here will give you a deeper correction. So at some point, this thing goes there and start to come back deep before it makes another move. See? All of that we can tell you by simply looking at the charts and looking at the way it's behaving, and what we have is a behavioral pattern thing. So let's see. We are going to put a buy here and then we'll manage that trade with more caution, right? Every time you get a small one like that and you buy it, you have to be more cautious that it might not go very far, right? This one might be the one that doesn't go very far. Another move we had was the Euro New Zealand. So the Euro New Zealand was a buy. We were buying that yesterday. It didn't go. The entry was here because we had this flag. The trade was only this much. That if this had gone, it will go there and then come back down, right? And the reason we were looking for that is because we're looking for a possible running flat with this one, right? So if you were expecting it to do that and then come here, that's a good trade for the day. Now, if it doesn't do that, now I wasn't in the room when this come down, but could you have seen that it's coming down? I think at this point, let me show you what I would do. I would put a line like this. If I was it when this went up, and we would wait for it. You'll put an entry here, and then you'll put an entry above this one. When it breaks this low, that's when you're going to think, okay, should I sell it? Right? Can I put this with something in the past and sell it? Because the bigger picture is still downside, right? If you're looking at the bigger picture, you're looking for downside. I probably wouldn't sell it. I wouldn't sell that. And you can see the way it went down, right? You see how slow that movement is? There was no point selling it. You'll have to be there for 24 hours watching it. So you take this off. We take this off. We still haven't got that. So we'll make an assumption that that's a standalone correction. And now we're at the bottom of this one. And that brings us to this point, right? We have a sharp move. We have an expanding flat and you're going down. Where would the sell be in this? Well, if I'm going to sell this now, what I want to see is I want to see it correct back upwards and then sell it. At the bottom here, you don't sell it because if you're making 1, 2, 3 as a correction for upside, at the bottom here, it will turn to give you that correction. If it is going down, you need a bigger correction here to sell. So there isn't any trade in this at the moment. So I'll take this off. Another trade we were looking for was the Euro Swiss. The Euro Swiss buy. I don't think you got tagged in this one and the second one, but the first entry you got tagged in. So we had 2 entries there. I was explaining it. This is the aggressive entry for the buy. We took that in the trading room. That one got tagged in the trading room, and then you would have closed it. Right? You wouldn't keep it even for all of this. You definitely would close it because it spent about 5 hours here doing nothing. I think I explained that. If it is going, it has to do this. If it starts to do this, that means you're getting a correction for downside. So you would pull both. When you see that, you'll pull both of these, right? The first one, you got tagged in, you close it for positive. The second one, you didn't close, you just take it off. And then you would look at this as a correction because it's taking too long to go, right? It's pretty slow. Now, that doesn't mean you will sell it. You would look at it as a correction, but you wouldn't sell it because there's no sell setup. But now you have a sell setup because now you have an impulse and a flag. And if you get a sell setup now, the question is, where do you think it's going to go? Remember, this is still upside. Again, I tell you, if you look at my lines, you'll know where I think it's going. This line is going down. That means I think it's going up. Right? I'm looking for a correction in this range. So there's a trade to get here if it goes. And I said if it goes, it doesn't really have to go. Again, if you don't understand what wave analysis is, when I say these things, think of this as I'm speaking to my traders who understand everything I'm saying. To some of you, especially if you're new, this is going to sound like really nonsense, right? If it goes, like, what do you mean if it goes? Well, because it doesn't really have to go. The chart is not making patterns for you. I want you to go and look at the first video I did yesterday, and that would explain everything. Because I know some of you will accidentally stumble onto this and say, this guy's crazy. Well, I'm a little crazy, but not in that sense, right? So what we're going to look for is we're going to look for this move here. And then we'll be expecting it when you break this low to likely go back up. Now, is it going to go back up? Who cares? Why should that bother you? Right? What should bother you is if it drops there and you don't get this trade at least. right? So an entry there with a stop here is what you're looking for. If it comes back to the top here, take off the trade. You're looking for a buy setup. If it comes back there and it pulls here, then we will assume that that is all the correction. This is the first impulse. This is the flat, and we're going up. Well, if you stay with me today and you come back and you join us in the New York session, we will see the results of this and you will see exactly what we did to the trade, right? So there's a trade setup here, and you can go into 15 if you want to get aggressive. Well, there is no more way to get aggressive here. You wanted to tag this stop. You wanted to go there, and then you'll be looking for the sell. Can we get a sell earlier? Let's see. How much pips is this? That's only 13 pips. There's no point trying to get it earlier. You're not going to get a flag in 13 pips. If that was 50 pips and it came to the top here, and then turn and give me a flag here, I'll sell this flag because I still have about 20, 30 pips to the bottom. But with 13 pips, by the time you get a flag, it's here. So the entry would still be here. Right? You don't want to take this flag. This flag in here will come here and go back up, and you wouldn't get an exit. Right? The point of that is to always make sure when I take this trade, what's my exit strategy? Right? Can I exit the trade if it doesn't go my way? And by that, I mean what it needs to complete. If you have 50 pips and let's say this is 50 pips and it moved 15 pips and then give you a flag and you sell this flag with a stop here, I don't know, 15, 20 pips. You still have 30 pips to go before it comes back up. Right? If you're still in this pattern. So within that 30 pips, you can get out for positive. But if you have only 10 pips to go and then go back up, you're not getting out of that. I mean, you can get out if you're like some of the traders in my group, you can get out. But most times, traders who don't understand wave analysis is just going to hope that it goes, and then you're going to end up taking a loss. So your skill level in understanding wave analysis is very, very important here. Right? So this is a sell setup. I think we'll change the buy to sell. We'll put this in active sell. And we had a sell here. Let's see what happens to that. Okay, so the sell was here yesterday because we thought it would stop here, and then it went higher, and you had a better sell here this morning. I don't know if any one of you took it. This is exactly what I explained just now on the previous one, right? Where you would change it. So we were looking for the sell down, and this one has how much pips? The range of this is how much? 30-something pips, right? I think this is about from here to here, it's 28 pips, and you have a flag at the top. Perfect. This is your perfect trade. We're still expecting the downside, but now you can, if this doesn't go, you can close the trade. You see how much time you'll have to close the trade? You have 1, 2, 3, 4 hours to decide whether this thing is still coming here or it's going to go back up. So what's the worst case scenario? It dropped there, you're expecting it to go, put it to break even right now if you want. Right? The worst case you can do is say, okay, I'm putting this to break even and see what this is going to do. In some of my traders will not put it to break even. And the reason is because the first pullback is never your problem. But that's a difficult thing for me to explain in this 1 week. Right? It's going to take a long explanation as to why that is not your problem and how you would manage it. So we're not going to go into that. If you want to learn more about that, join us. Send me a Skype message. I think I got about 7 Skype messages yesterday. I was hoping for 17, but it's okay. 7 of you will want to join the group. That's good. So what we're going to do here is, if it drops and it dropped beyond this point, you stay with the trade, right? If it goes above that, you really don't want the trade, right? Because here's the thing. If you pull back from here to this point, that trade is actually going to go up. Even if it comes back down here, it's still going to make a big flat here and go up. I know that now. You don't know that as yet. So that is why the trade is not worth keeping if it's not going. But if it's going, then that would be a good trade. Now, I didn't take this trade. I wasn't here when that happened, so I'm going to take it off, but I'm showing you as an example what you could have done if you were there, because my traders who were there would do exactly that. We're still expecting downside, right? It didn't change this. All it did from a running flat, we're expecting to an expanding flat, and then it gives you a perfect sell setup. So I'm going to take it off just because we didn't do it. So let me go which else we had. We had this one, the Aussie yen buy. I think that worked perfect. You should have closed that trade. Right? I mean, when you see this and it starts to pull back, you could have closed it. You didn't have to wait. You had a lot of thing there. If you didn't close it and it dropped suddenly, it went back up. Remember, I just told you the first pullback is not your problem. And there's a reason for that, right? So let's say you didn't close the trade and it pulled back like this. Well, then you don't have to close it there. You wait for a certain amount of things to happen to decide whether you're going to close it here or whether you're going to just keep it to the top. Well, now you better close it. You should close it now because it's going to pull back again. I can tell you that this thing is likely going to pull back here again. And when it does that, then we will buy this one to the upside again from somewhere here. So if you close that trade here right now, and it goes up a little more, and then it pull back like this, you can always buy it back from here going. It's a better entry, but now you already have this running flat out of your way. See? If you understand that possibility, that is how you would treat this trade. But if you don't understand that possibility, you'll be living in hopes that, oh, this is going to go, so why should I close it? It's going up now. And I'm like, yeah, really? You don't think it's going to pull back? It always does. Now, let's say 10% of the time it doesn't pull back. Well, 10% of the time you miss a piece of the trade, but you're playing on the 90% of the time that it will pull back. So 10% of the time you're like, oh, well, thank God I stay in. 90% you're like, oh my God, why the hell did I stay in? See? So you're working on the probability that is on your side. And as far as I know, it's going to pull back because I can show you one where that did. When you see this and you see it come back to the top, guess what happens? I'm not looking at this and think it's going to go. I'm thinking, okay, we have this. We should get another one here that makes a flat and then go back up. Right? I'm showing you one in the past so you can understand what you should expect in the future. And 90% of the time, you're going to get this. 10%, it might just go much further before you get this. And that's called an extended running flat. Now, there's a way to trade extended running flat. And that is instead of waiting and hope that this go, wait until it makes it actually make a flag. And then each flag is going to move a little up, then another flag, a little up, another flag, a little up, and then it's going to give you that sharp pullback. Now, if you know how to trade this and manage it, you'll be moving your stops all the way until this take you out. That is so easy when I showed you, right? You're like, oh, I can do that. That's pretty easy. The problem is if I take a blank chart and show you, you will never identify a running flat. Or you'll never identify an extended running flat. Because it's not that easy. The reason I can explain it to you that easy is because I've done this for so many years. I actually was the one who identified it for the first time, the extended running flat. That is never identified anywhere. That's a pattern that we identified as a pattern that we see in the charts because we've seen it so many times. After about 100 times seeing it, I decided this thing is actually repeating itself as a pattern. So we should identify it as a pattern because it repeats itself so often and it just does exactly the same thing. And that's the thing about finding patterns is that you find something and you look at it and you say, hey, does this thing repeat itself very often? Let me go back and check all the charts and see if I can find 1,000 of them. And not only does it repeat itself, but the behavioral pattern of it, which means if you see X, then you're going to get Y at least 90% of the time. And then you can say, well, then that's tradable because 90% of them, I know what to expect when I take the trade. 10%, no, it's not going to do that. And if I can get out earlier in 10%, then I'm on the right side of it. So this is a good trade. I think you can leave that as a profitable trade. It's still a buy setup, but you want it to come back. So I'll tell you what we want it to do. I don't know if it will do that, but if it does this, we'll be buying it again. If it does that, then we will be expecting this to go right back up to the top here. And that would be another trade. Now, if you look at it this way, there are two things you can do. One of the things is the reason we bought that yesterday is because we're looking at this two ways. Either you take this as a separate flat of its own here, or you put it with this one as a running flat. Now, I'm not sure that this extended running flat is finished. I don't really like this one as a separate one. I think this as part of this running flat, I think this could be a separate one of its own, just like all of these were, right? Even this one I'll probably put in there. Right, you got to move up. You got this. You got to move up. This could be it, but this could be a flat, and then you get another flat, and then you get to pull back here, and then that one goes. So I'm aware of that possibility. Let's see if this is it. Then this will take off really fast, right? If this is it, this one is going to go really fast. So you don't want to miss it because the move up is equivalent to this, and maybe more. Now remember, this is the dollar yen, and the yen is going down. All the yen pairs are going down. This is a corrective move as far as we're concerned. How far can it go? Well, then you go to the bigger picture and you said, okay, well, if it's correcting, what is correcting, where it's going? See, I already have an arrow where we think it's going. And that arrow was there for about a month now or more. Actually, that forecast was made about a year or so ago. That forecast was made when this one was going up. And if you followed me, you would know that the only thing we wanted it to do was break this stop. Not necessarily this stop, but this one. But now that it break that top, it's okay. The only information it gives us when it break that top is that it's going to come back to this point and then go back up. Not this exact point, I should correct that. It's going to come back here, not necessarily breaking this low, because then it's a running flat, right? We're looking at this as a possible running flat. So it will come back here and then go. Now, you notice when this was coming down, you see the sharp move here that it made, the first sharp move, and then they correct it like that, and then drop. So the question is, are we starting that correction here? And then drop. See how amazing it becomes when you learn wave analysis? You can see the future. That easy. So now that we have got a similar drop, right? We've got this huge drop here, right? Very similar. And then we had a flat that went up there. You can put it like this, actually. We got that trade up. And then this dropped. So you're thinking, are we making that? If that's the case, then this is the first move up that we are buying into. Remember, I said this is a correction we are buying, right? This is the first impulse of a possible monthly correction. I'm on a weekly correction that will probably stay here for the next 6 months. How long did this stay here? You can go back and check all of that stuff, right? You can go back and see, well, how long did this stay here? If I put this in. Okay, so this one, this is not the move. This is the first move down, by the way. It's even shorter than you think. This one is part of this trade. So this was the highest point. That was the highest point, and this is the flat. So this one, that move down is even shorter than you think. That means this is a pretty good move. So how long did this correction take? That's an easy thing to check, right? I'm going to check from the bottom of the impulse, which is here, to the top of that correction. And you can take this and you can pull it across here, and you can see that that took about 238 days. That's a 1-year correction. Put it like that. So for the next year, which is until the end of next year, we could be trading in this range here. That's a possibility. Not necessarily that that is what it's going to do, but that is a possibility if you look at what happened in the past, right? Now, the patterns are not always exactly the same, but time-wise, they tend to, look alike. So we could be staying in that range, I don't know, for 6 months and then drop. So you come back in here and then you say, well, okay, that's 6 months of very good trading because I have an idea where it's going to be. So this one is going to go up? Yeah, very likely. And then it might start to drop because we might see a correction in here and then up again. This correction is going to be the longest time. Time-wise, this is where all the slow moves are going to happen. But can you trade in a range that is, let's say from here, and I'm just going to put it a little above that. Let's say that is 1,049 pips, 1,100 pips. 1,100 pips. Can you trade in that range? Every day you can pull a trade out of it. Every single day you can pull a trade out of something like that. See? Now that's wave analysis. Understanding what the chart is doing at any given time, anywhere, and then wait for your trade setup. Now you might not get a trade setup every day, but if you do, that would be great. So yesterday we pulled one trade out of it. Let's see if we get a second one today. Let's move on. So we're still looking for a buy. I'll change that to buy setup because this is recorded. Traders will know we changed it. And the rest of them are setups. Bitcoin was a buy setup. I don't think there was a trade, but if you took it, you're doing good. So this had two options here, or if you want to get aggressive, you should have got aggressive here, right? So the aggressive one was wait for this to pull back because it was going down and wait for a flag. And then you would only expect it to come to the top and then it could still drop. Right? Remember when I said this one, you have to be careful. The reason we kept it there is because this could still be a flat that will drop one more and then go back up. This entire structure is still upside. That has not changed. So right now, what you're going to do is you're going to wait here. If you're in this one, you can take it off or you can still keep it. This is if you're very long term on the buy. Let's see if this drop or if it makes a flag here and then we buy the flag. See, pretty easy. So this is still kind of a buy setup. You're waiting for a flag. Okay. Those were the trades we took yesterday. Those were the trades. And I think NASDAQ, yes, somebody was just telling me they were in NASDAQ. I think I remember that. One of our trader was in it and he closed the trade. And there was another buy setup. It pulled back, you got the buy setup. So you were waiting for this to pull back here and then buy it. I think you got the pullback, right? You got enough, not totally, but you could have put an entry order there and that would have been a trade. So it was at the top here. We wanted it to pull back like this. We always assumed it's going to be equal. It doesn't have to be equal. You got the pullback, that's your trade. So once you start pulling back, you can put an entry there. Pretty easy, right? I think we had the same thing on S&P 500 too. If you wanted to take it, wait for a pullback and then put the trade. Right? Wait for this to pull back. It didn't pull back. We didn't get this pullback. This trade should have been off. That was a sell if it didn't come back to the top. Right? So the idea was to sell this here in the 15 minutes while it was still here. Right? If it goes back to the top as a rule, you have to take that off. Actually, the trade should have been this one. Here should have been your entry for that trade. So if you were there and you saw it pull back there, once it get there, you will tell yourself that this thing has to come back to the bottom here, right? It has to come back to this point. Once it pulls back like that, you can put an entry here and assume that this here is a contracting flat, right, for the upside. So that is how that would have been traded. We still haven't got this, so somewhere in the future we'll get that. Let's see if there's anything in the past. No, nothing in the past. So somewhere in the future today, you would expect this to pull back like this. And if it does, we'll be buying this one. We'll be looking for a buy from here going up. So let's see. Can it reverse and give you a deeper one like this? That would be great. If you get a deeper one like that, that would be even much better. The first buy we had was here. Yesterday, we were trying to buy this. I wasn't in the room when they pulled back, but I showed that you should wait for it. So I wasn't there when it happened. We didn't get it, actually. We got a flat. You could still buy the flat and then go. So NASDAQ, now you wait for a flag. You don't have anything there right now. I don't think it's a buy as yet. There was a smaller flag here, but this was too small. Wait for this to pull back. Right? Wait for this to pull back. And if you want, you can buy this, but with a lot of caution. We're starting to channel at the top. For my traders, right? Be careful with this. So NASDAQ, if you're in the trade already, move your stop. If you're in it, move your stop. If you're not in it as yet, wait. Wait for the pullback and then go. And you're still in the oil sell. Let's go US oil. Yep, that did give you the trade. By the way, this was a trade setup. So yesterday, if you were here yesterday, this is real magic for you. Because this was coming down and I was like, we're not selling it. Wait until you get something like this. And as soon as it does that, put an entry here. Right, that was a trade in the New York session that I was telling you to do. Right, wait for a flat and this is your trade. Wonderful. Any one of you who took that trade, you did amazing. Right, this is it. Did it pull back? I think it did. I think it did very well. So you can put an entry here and get that trade. It's more of a contracting flat, but that pullback was good enough for me because it broke out of this and you can put an entry here and go with that trade. So I'll leave this here. You learned something. And this is how it works like magic, right? And here's the thing. You can't guess this stuff. You can't guess that all you needed to do was pull back here first and then you expect it to drop. And that is while this was coming down. So if this didn't convince you that these patterns actually exist and they actually behave the same way most of the time, then you're in deep trouble, right? Because we look at this thing, for us, this is normal. For anybody in my group, this is just normal stuff. They look at it and said, okay, yeah, good. They're not amazed by it. You look at that and if you're seeing this for the first time and you're not amazed, you're in trouble. Because the first 10 years I look at this, I was amazed. You and I, when you took the buy and then you took the sell, oh, you guys you're hammering it both ways, right? So my traders, the aggressive traders, they bought it and then they closed it and then they sell it. That's how you trade it. So let's go. I couldn't give them the buy on YouTube. You know that. I'd never call that buy on YouTube. We'll get ourselves in real problem when they wake up the next day and it's here, right? And then they'll say, oh, you said, look, buy it. So good sell. By the way, wait for another correction, sell again today. So we'll wait for this to correct. Remember, if it breaks this low, we'll be looking for buy. So can we put this as a running flat? Yeah, that's possible. Let's see what happens when we break this low. So the expectation is that it's going to come and break this low here, and then we'll see if it goes back up like this. That possibility exists. So I'm telling you that now, and we'll see how it happens. So first, let's go break the low. Let's see if we can get the sell today, right? Let's see if we can get this trade. So with that said, now we have gone through most of the trades we looked at yesterday afternoon. I'm going to go through again all the majors. I'm going to go through some of the other charts where there are setups, and you will tell me what you want me to look at, and then we'll go from there, right? So one person wants US 30, and he put a please. So he's either in the trade or he's very urgently deciding what to do with it. Let's go take a look. US 30, are you in the buy? If you're in the buy, then you should keep it, but be careful. This could give you a pullback here. Actually, if that pullback, you can buy it. But remember, this thing is starting to channel. This has a flat here. It has another flat here. It's getting a flat there. So this could be one more buy. There's a lot of divergence here now. So any buy, you will be careful. If you're in the buy, you can still take it, but you just have to be cautious that at some point it's going to fade out, right? It's coming back to this top. What's the bigger picture here? We're going back to that top. So where are we in the entire structure? We had this as a contracting flat, running flat, sorry. I'm not sure whether we'll extend it to this. I don't like this because this is very sharp. So that means we'll assume that it's making another running flat here. The assumption is that this will become another flat, which means this is going really fast. That is a little tricky because this one is moving really fast. So we'll have to wait. If we put this as a flat, then we'll have to assume that this is 1, 2, 3, and then we come back here again for a much bigger correction. Right? So when it gets to the top, the chance of it coming down back here is pretty high as it gets to the top. So, and you can see that in the divergence that you're getting, not in this one here with this divergence when you break that up, but divergence in this structure itself as it's going up, right? You can see it on the 50 minutes. You can see it on the 1 hour, right? You're starting to get that divergence. So that means you're going to be very cautious at the top there as you buy. I'll be very, very careful with that. Okay, let's go now. Euro sell active. One of my traders said a euro sell is active. Let's see. Yep, you got a euro sell there. We're looking for something like this yesterday. That was the buy. You're getting a sell. That's a good one. Let's see if it's if you got a flat there. Okay, I think you guys actually sold this one, maybe. You can actually put it here, assuming that that's an expanding flat. We can do that. You'll have to be cautious for a 1, 2, 3 as well. I don't think we're looking more downside. The bigger pictures were more downside, right? Yeah, more downside. Divergence to the top. Yeah, we have divergence here. So yeah, that could come down quite a lot. Not a bad sell. Go back on the 15. We can put an entry order here for the sell. This one with a little caution though, because it did come back very close to the top. Not exactly at the top, a little close. I think my traders took it here. They might have got tagged there when they're going down on the way, but you can put an entry here just to be on the safe side. We'll have to manage this trade with a lot of caution. That's a note to my traders, right? Because the pullback is deep. This would have been the ideal drop. But as it comes back there, you have to assume that they could be doing this. But there's a lot of weight that I mean, the impulse is pretty thing, so you can get rid of that. So we'll put this as an active sell and we'll manage it. Let's go. Dollar index. Dollar index dropped. It broke the low. So now we're going to see we're still in this move. We either accept this as a contracting flat. That's one option. Or the second option, assume that it's going to come back here, drop again, and then pull back to make a running flat. Now, this is very sharp, so I don't think that will happen. I'm thinking this contracting flat might be it. So this could either be total upside or just another pullback for downside. Let's see what we have, where we get here. You could assume this thing is making a running flat here too. Be careful of the euro because this could be a running flat. You do have a small correction in here. See that? Before this drop. Or these are just corrections of their own. See if this go back to the top and then pull it as another correction for more downside. It's not necessarily going up. We'll have to wait on this. Right? There's a small flag here for a sell. As a matter of fact, see, there's a small flag for sell. What you want is you want this flag to go up higher. You want that to go higher. You don't want it to drop. We had a flag here for sell, right? When it was here. But then it went higher. So you take off the trade and you put the entry order under this one. Last impulse. Right? We could see the same thing here. If it goes there and go above, we'll pull a line here and put the entry order here. If it stays here, it's a sell. So with the euro sell, you'll have to be a little cautious because dollar index is consolidating here for a drop. There's a little flag forming here. I think this flag should be about 2 hours. Let's see. Yeah, this is the second hour. This is the first hour on the pullback. Give it 1 more hour and then it should be ready to drop. So you have an hour more to make a decision on the euro if you're in it. But euro is moving right now, so this is still going up. And if it gets to the top here, if it kind of works its way there, take this off, wait for it to pull back, and then we buy this. So the euro will make a pullback. Silver. I think this was, so 2 ways you could have traded this. I explained that yesterday when this was the buy, the earlier buy. And then when it made this, you're closing your buy. I think I explained that also when I was showing you Bitcoin, or something where you will close it at the top or wait for the pullback and then let it go. One of them that I just showed you was at the top. I can't remember which chart. And I said, well, if you were in the trade, you should close it right now because it's going to pull back. Well, that's what happened here, right? You close this trade, it's pulling back. Now you can put the entry here, but if you were in my group, you'd put the entry here. You could have closed it and put it here, but that is where you should put it because you already have the flat, right? And this is going up. So it's going to break the top. If you were in earlier, that is where you should have put the trade. Now, let's say you're not in that trade. You can still put it here. And with caution. See, the flats are getting closer. The impulses are getting shorter and you're getting divergence. Right? You're getting divergence. That's weakness of momentum. You're starting to see these impulses smaller. So this one might just do that and then come back. At some point, you get a deeper correction. Go back to the 1 hour, 4 hour, 4 hours. Yeah, at some point, you could get a deeper correction. A deeper correction meaning something like this. See this deep correction at the top there before they make the final one up. So you could break the top, come back here pretty deep, go up there, make a final move up, and then come back here. That possibility exists, just like this did. Right? That is a possibility. Now, can it take off and break through the top? That's why we're trading it up, because we assume that it's going to do that. Right? We're assuming that this is all the correction here right now. This is all the correction. And that we're going to go out. Again, if you look at my lines, you will know what I think it's going to do, right? See, that line means we're coming back towards it to go out of it. Now, this is the top. That's not a buy setup, right? That's at the top of the structure. Let me put it here so you can see, right? That's not trying to buy this thing at the top. Unless you're trading like Warren Buffett, then you can decide, well, let it break that up and then go, right? But that's not how they trade. So let's see if it's going to break out or it's just going to come to the top and then come back down. Buy. We're still in the buy. We're still going. You do have divergence. Just be cautious. So this is an active buy from yesterday. I'll put that there. We can put the trade now as an active buy. And it probably will tag you and pull back a little. Don't worry very much. So right now you have an active trade. It's not tagged unless you're in this one. If you're in that one, then you're in the trade. If you're not, then you're looking for this one to make a flag and then go. Gold. Yep. We had 1, 2, 3 yesterday. The buy was on top of this one unless you get a flag earlier. So the earliest flag you had was this flag. And it's still a flag, right? The earliest one you had was this. So that's still a flat for upside. You still keep your entry here. Now, the only thing I don't like about this one is that we have a flat here. And that flat is inside of this. By rule, when you get that, you're thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then come back 1, 2, 3 here. By rule, you should always assume that that is what it's going to do. So now, if you're taking this trade, you have to ask yourself, especially with divergence in play, how far will that go? And is it a trade I actually want? Because all it needs to do right now is break this top. Break that top, tag you, and then pull right back in this. Well, it's not going to pull right back here. See, this made a correction. It's probably going to come back here, make a flag, and then drop. Now, what are your thought process? Should you take that trade, assuming that it could tag you into this, or should you wait for something else? Now, I would say take it off because the risk is too high. Now, what if it takes off like a rocket? Don't worry, you have the silver that has a better setup. We also know that silver could pull back, but silver doesn't have this pattern in play. So I would say take this off because the assumption is that, yes, with this flat here, we're going to come back. All my traders know that rule, so there's no question about that. Let's wait and see because this one is not a big flat. Right? This is a 1, 2, 3, and they're making an exactly similar 1, 2, 3 here. So let's wait and see what happens when it comes to this top. This is not a trade now. This is a top I'm putting. When you see it's this side, when it's not here, this is a trade. When it's there, it's a top. So I'm trying to show you where the top is. We wanted to break that top or tag the top and then come right back down, giving us a sell setup. So that we don't question what we were looking for here when we come back in the charts, you wouldn't remember, right? What you're going to do is you're going to start to put some lines. So what you're expecting is that this should come here and break the top. And then we're going to expect something like this back to the bottom, right? And if we get that, then we will start to trade it from here going up. See? So this is what we're expecting the chart to do. And then when it does that from here, we will be looking for the downside. Now let's see what it does. Now, if it does this, then you should get this trade. You should get this trade, and most likely you should get this trade, which is really the equivalent of this one. So there are two possible trades that you could get in gold in the future if it does what you think it's going to do. Well, if it doesn't do that, then the next possible thing it could do is that this one actually just takes off like a rocket and then make another flag here. Good for me. That means this is off. If I get another flag there, what it's telling me is that, you know what, they're actually not making this back. They're actually going up. And if you go up, then we exclude this possibility of a running flat. Right? So then we will buy this one rather than trying to buy it at the top there, where all it needs to do is tag you and drop. You don't want that to happen. Now, the only way you are going to know that that could happen is that you know that this chart has done that in the past, and not only once, but many, many times. So you have got to go and study all those patterns in the past, identify them correctly, understand what they're doing, and then come back and say, wait a second, I've seen this before. Right? And if you've seen that before, then there's no point taking the trade. See? Now, can it go? Yeah, it can go. Let it go. Who cares? You are making a decision and putting your money at risk, and you have to decide, is this a good point to put your money at risk, or is there any risk in that it's going to pull back? And if you know that there is a risk it's going to pull back, why put your money? Like, I don't know, you're going on a bungee jump and the guy said, hey, wait a second, this rope is not looking so good. The chances it can break when you jump, but anyway, you can still jump. Would you go in the jump? You're like, dude, no, give me a rope that is definitely not going to break, right? So it's the same thing with the trade. I want a trade that is definitely doesn't have any reason to pull back. Now, I'm not saying that that rope that he gives you is not going to break too, but you're pretty sure that that's a good rope and that that one is going to hold you. So the same thing here. I'm pretty sure this is going to go up, and there's no reason why it should pull back based on patterns. Well, that is a trade I will absolutely take, like this one. We didn't think twice of taking this trade because we're not expecting this to come here and pull back. We're expecting it to go. Right? That's the whole difference, because we have got a complete flat here that doesn't need pullback. Now, that is a good trade. I'm thinking this is not a good trade because it might go here and do that. It might, not necessary. But then on the side of caution, stay away from it. So that's not going to happen to you. See? That is what that's how you weigh risk and decide whether a trade is a good trade or not. That's what, and the amazing thing about wave analysis is that it gives you that information. It gives you that knowledge to make that decision. Right or wrong, you're in the safe side of it. Right? Whether it goes or not now is irrelevant because you know that the possibility is pretty high. And you decide, well, no, I'll just stay this one out. Let me go find another trade. And that's the whole idea of learning wave analysis. It gives you a vast amount of knowledge of the behavioral patterns of the chart. Something you will not know using any other methods. I don't care what method you trade. There's no other method that will allow you to understand the chart in that way. That is seeing the chart in the future, how it's going to behave. Now, if you remember that pullback? I showed you that on 3 possible charts we did yesterday that is going to get that pullback, and then you'll get a trade. The number one was oil. The last one I just showed you was oil. Let me go back and show you to remember. Remember this one? The reason we didn't sell it to the bottom here is because we had a line like this. And we said, let this go back up with the arrow and then look for the sell. See? And that is exactly what happened, right? So you put it back here. That's not magic. That happens most of the time. And then you come back and you said, okay, I can see the same thing in gold. I can see the same thing in gold, that it should pull back before it go. And you're thinking I should be buying it here. See, the whole point in that, the oil turned out to be an amazing trade for the sell. Well, wait for this to see if you get a buy. You don't want the trade up. Euro. The euro sell, you'll have to be cautioned because we don't know that it's going to go very fast. Like I said, there's a good chance it's going to pull back. Now, if you took the trade, there's no need to panic. If you didn't take it, you did excellent. But if you took it, there's no need to panic. What you're going to do is you're going to give it another hour here. And very likely in the next hour, it will pull back like this. Close the trade. The only way you keep this trade is if when you're in the next hour, it actually does this. Then you keep the trade. Because there's a high risk that they're all going to have some move, that this one is going to go up because the dollar index is showing us that there's a sell setup in it, right? We saw that later after we put the euro. See? There's a sell setup here. Now, that doesn't mean this is going to go down, but the mere fact that it dropped there is you're going to be on the side of caution. Does it consolidate here? And then go here and go back there, giving you a flat here? That's a possibility. But can it drop also? That is also a possibility. I'm not worried about this trade. That trade, if you take it, you can get out for positive. There's a high probability. The euro one is the worst one because you already had that correction. But you can still get out of this trade. And by the end of this session, I'll show you if it drops, we stay with it. If it stays sideways, we close it. Your stop for this trade is here. That's your risk. So even if you take a traded tag, you pull back, you don't have to worry about it. Wave analysis gives you enough knowledge to make decisions like that. Pong. I think yesterday I told you we're not selling the Pong, we're buying it regardless of this was coming down, and we're like, we're not selling it because we don't have any sell set up. What you want is you want this to do this here. And then you buy that. So you let it come down here, we'll either put the entry order here or we'll see if we get a flag here to buy. All right, because I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and this goes up, so this should go up. We'll see what happens from that point. Wait for a pullback, look for the buy. So we're looking for a buy setup. We don't have any sell setup in it. If we're going to get a sell setup, that'll be probably New York session, if it's going to happen. Aussie, we are buying. We want this pullback first, but we don't get it. You could have bought the flag. I said any flag you buy, because we're coming to this point, and that pullback could happen somewhere at the top. This is an extended running flat if we look at it that way, right? There's a lot of these pullback already. This was a regular running flat. This one, just a running flat. There was a smaller contracting flat there. I think this would probably, maybe somewhere at the top there we'll get it. Can we get it today? Well, let's see. I don't see a sell setup here as yet. No, it was a perfect sell setup from this point until it pulled back to that point. So if I was here this morning, I would have an entry order here to sell using this flag for that pullback, by the way. And then when it does this, you take this off. You wait for this to happen. Let it come back here and then one more up. So as of now, I think the probability for one more up is higher than downside because that's a deep pullback. The deep pullback means you will always assume it's making a flat. So the assumption you're going to go to when it pulls back that deep is it's making a flat. And there's a logic to this, right? What it's telling you is there's a lot of buy orders coming in. So if again, come back to the first video. If you missed the first video, go watch it because that's where you're going to start to understand why we do this. The reason I was looking at this for a sell, as explained in the first video, is that all the orders are being filled in this range. And because we are coming from here, the probability of this going out here is much higher, right? But when you see that push to the top there, what did it tell you? Oh, wait a second. There are a lot of buy orders here. That was a massive buy order that actually pushed the price back to the top. And which, if you look at this as a flat, which way are we coming from? We're coming from this way. So if you get a flat here, where we go, it goes out that way. So now you're thinking, wait a second, the orders are being filled, but they're no longer being filled in this range. They're actually being filled in this range. This is the range they're filling order in now, a much bigger range, but all the orders are being filled in this range. So if you fill orders in this range and it's coming here, the higher probability is that you're going to go that way. See how easy this becomes now? Now, again, you will say, well, what if it drops? Well, what if it drops now? On the side of caution, you don't put that trade on, you take it off. And if this is going to drop for that bigger move, which is this move down, see what happens here when they fill this here at the top? So let's say you were here. And I'm going to repeat that so you learn something. Let's say I wanted to sell this for a move down. And then it goes to the top. And I'm like, you know what? Nope, I'm not in that trade. It come back here. And then it went right back to the top. My thought process, this should go up, not down. It should go up because I'm looking at that as a flat. I'm thinking it could go up. But then it kind of dropped beyond this point here. It came back down beyond this point and then started to consolidate here. If you see a consolidation here or a consolidation here, then this becomes a sell. Because now what they tell you, as they get to the top there, the sell orders came in massively to push it this way. Not only did the sell orders came in, you could have still get buy orders that will push it back to the top like this. Sell orders came, but the buy orders fill it right back to the top. But what happens here, the difference between this as a sell and this not a sell, is that you got a consolidation here. The orders are being filled there. See, you see all the filling of the orders that create this flag here. What happened here? We went right back up. So now if you break this, that becomes a trade to the downside. And then maybe up, but you'll get out of that trade by then. Right? It's a big move for you to get break even or close the trade. Should this have continued, it would have stopped here and make another flag, and we'd be selling this the next day. See? Pretty easy. So when you look at this, you said, well, we have a pretty sharp move here and there's nothing to match it with. I could have put it with this one, but then we have this one. So there's going to be one somewhere in the future. It is going to happen. That's like a 99% chance of that happening. Don't ask me why. Who the hell know why? It just happens in the chart all the time. There has to be some reasoning behind it. I just don't know it. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait to see, let this pull back here, and then this becomes a buy setup. Short term, but buy setup. We're trying to get to this point. I explained that yesterday already, but just to remind you, we are trying to go there. And from that point, we will likely come right back now. So we changed this pattern a little, but we have changed it like about 10 times because there's so many pieces to it. It's fractal in nature. You're always assuming that this pattern is the one, but the more pieces you add, the more it can change, right? But that doesn't stop the trading. Don't let that confuse you that if it's changing, you wouldn't know what to do. We still know what to do at every stage, right? So I think this could possibly be an expanding flat because we have this one, and we're going back up. So we're going back up for this. Now you notice these very deep pullback here for a running flat, by the way, which you get eventually, is that this running flat might be too small. There's a good chance after that you get a much bigger one. And then go there. There's a possibility something like that will happen. And then you go break this top before you come back. And you notice I already forecast that downside. So we're making forecasts like a year in advance. That pattern is already defined a year in advance. Now, would that change? Possibly. Most likely, you'd be amazed of how these things work. And I'll leave this arrow here and you'll come back and you'll say, darn, how did you know it's going to do that? Well, because I've seen that like a million times, if not more. So we go back to the 1 hour and the same thing you see on the lower time frames. It's the same patterns. They don't change. So we're going to look for this. Well, I can't say they don't change. They do change and varies, but it's not like that quick. They're mostly dominant in the way it behaves. So we're going to look for this move up. This will still be a buy setup. I think the same we're going to have for New Zealand. Buy setup. I don't know if anybody bought it anywhere. Let me go back to the 15, see if there's any flag anywhere. You just had to buy. Let's see if we have any flag anywhere. I'm not sure if anybody bought it. Just depending on where we were yesterday. If we were in here, this would have been a buy. If you were here, you could have bought that. If you get a pullback here, you can buy this. If it pulls back here, you can buy this. These are small 15-minute trades. You have a lot of divergence. You're on the side of caution. And there might be a pullback. You don't necessarily need to pull back on this. This could be the correction all by itself. Right? This here could be the correction all by itself. It could also pull back. It's relatively sharp. It's not a flat pattern as such. It's just a pullback. So you could also get a pullback like that here and then go, we're coming to this stop. We're coming to this point and then downside. So there is a high. If you notice, the first pullback was here and the second one was here. So you can buy your way up to the top. Now, this one could work its way up to the top, right? It could get there and then you get a pullback, something like this here, go finish the top and then come back here. And this would be your running flat. And that's pretty normal. So you notice Aussie has to come down, New Zealand has to come back here, which is this equivalent of this move. Right? Come break this low, and then we'll see what happens. When it breaks, it has to break this low when it comes back the next time. And then upside. So we're trading this back to the top. That's about how much pips? That's about 87 pips, not a lot. You need a flag and thing, and then with the possibility of a pullback. So let's hope we get a pullback first. What we can hope for is that this actually does this today. Is there any news event in New Zealand coming up? Let me see. Today is what? Today is Tuesday, right? Yeah, we have some CAD news. Maybe tomorrow morning, New Zealand. Yeah, tomorrow morning or tonight, you have some New Zealand news. I'm not sure whether it'll be effective. It's look good, not, but they could use that to drop it. Right, so that's my time, 9:45. Let's see. Let me see tomorrow if there's anything that could give you a sudden drop. Not that I see. There's some New Zealand news, but they're not very high impact. But they could still use that to give you that sudden drop, which could create this sudden drop here. Give you something like this, and then go back up. But that's not necessary because you notice this one is really sharp. It's not really a lot of correction in it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all the way there and then come back. Let's see which we get. If you get a flag buy, If you get a correction, buy. So we're looking for a correction here. You want to pull back. You want this to actually pull back here, and then you get a running flat, and you know how to trade that. Put an entry here, put a stop here, go for the next trade. CAD. I hope you're in the sell. You should be in this sell from yesterday. And if you want, you could have taken this sell here this morning. If you were trading here this morning, this was a sell setup in the CAD. You got a really nice flat here. Anticipate a running flat, which is you've got this. You can expect it to come here, do this, and then drop, but that's not a problem. Take the trade. It could be a long drawn out running flat. So if you're not in the trade and it does pull back, right? If you're not in this trade and it does pull back, look for a sell. So I'll leave it as a sell setup. I wouldn't put it as an active trade because I wasn't there when that trade happened. And if you were there, you took it. But if you weren't there, no, you can't put it. So we'll wait for it to come here and pull back like this, and then we'll go for the trade. We're expecting this to go down quite a lot. So any sell setup you get, take it. This was a trade from yesterday. That was an active trade from yesterday. We'll see. Swiss. Okay, Swiss, we were buying this flag to see how high, if it's going to break out of this. You got tagged in the flag, and as you would know if you're in my group, get the hell out of it, right? Because I think I told you, this thing has to go, not consolidate. And it stayed 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. You had 4 hours to close the trade. You don't even need that much time to decide that trade is not going, get the hell out of it. If you put it in, sorry, that's not 4 hours, that's 1 hour. But 4 candles on the 15. If you didn't close it, you close it somewhere here, right? But you should have closed it because remember the move is in the downside. If it tags you and it pull back and it's not going, close the trade. As a rule, you should do that. Now, let's say you took a loss, you'll take a loss here because once it breaks through this, it becomes a sell setup, right? At this point here, it becomes a sell setup under the last impulse. You can sell this flag or you can sell that flag, right? So you would take that loss and sell it there if you got tagged in it and you didn't close the trade. The safe entry was here. I explained there are 2 or 3 trades I put do this. If you have the skill level to take this trade, you have to know how to close it. If you don't, then you put this one above here. This is the safe entry for those of you who don't know how to close trades like these. That means this thing will have to go through like that. Prove it's reversing this. But if it stays here, it's still a consolidation. See? Now, there are rules to that thing. I'm not just, these are rules as to what is a consolidation, how we look at consolidation and all of that. So that is why I gave you both entries, the safe entry and the one if you're skilled. And by skilled, I mean you can close trade really quick. We're going to leave that sell setup, which means we're looking for more sell setup today. Now it proves that we're not going back up. We're totally coming to break this low, and then we'll see what happens from there. So we'll put it to any flag you have as a sell setup. I'll leave it as a sell setup. That was a really high risk trade that you have to have the skill level. The bigger trade is downside. So it's still any flag here, we sell. Wait for a flag sell. Yen, perfect sell setup. This was the first one. You remember yesterday what I said you're waiting for? You're waiting for it to correct. And now that it corrects, you can put an entry order under the last impulse. That will be here for the drop. I will go in the 5 minutes because the range in these are pretty high. So we tend to trade them in the 5 minutes, which means the range is a couple hundred pips always. What's the range? What's the size of this move here? Going back up there, let's see. Yeah, that's 147 pips. There's no point waiting for it to break here. You get it from the top here. By the way, anybody in the yen sell? Especially my traders. I thought somebody was asking for the yen there. Nobody took that one? You saw that. So that was a really good trade if you took it. If you didn't take it, here's what you're going to do. You're going to wait for this to make a bigger flag here. Not a small one like that. Wait for this to make a bigger flag here. And take this flag to come and break through. Again, if you have the skill level to close this trade, should it do this and go back up, just like the one just now I showed you, right? The Swiss. So if you're going to take this, you want the flag here, and then you're going to have 2 entries. The one entry would be here after the flag. There's no flag. Take that out. After the flag, we can put it. But if it just dropped through the bottom, put your entry here. You're stopped for this trade. Well, you'll have to put it here because 147 pips. You are not going to put a stop there. Let's see if we can get a small flag. See that one there? Let's see if we can get something like that here. And then we'll go with the sell. Right? But for now, you can keep this here should it just drop through the bottom. This is going down. There are 2 big flats you need to look at. Right? One is this one. This could be all the correction. We'll take this out. It's not making a running flat anymore. It's actually doing this. We broke out of this whole thing. Right? So this is downside, and this one is coming to break this low, and it's actually coming here. That is the complete this pattern. This here. Right? So we're assuming that this is doing something like this. This one is more with this pattern here. This piece is this. I should put it, there's a pullback there. You can see that. Or you can put this one in this. It wouldn't make a big difference. So we're looking for this here now. Come back here. And then probably go back up, making a running flat here. Now, if we're wrong about it, it just keeps dropping. That's all. So now let's wait and see which one is it. Go back there, get a 15-minute flag, sell it. This is a sell. You can sell this flag right now. You can put this entry order. You just have to use a bigger stop or wait for a flag in here if you miss the first flag. Euros. It broke the top. It's dropping. You got a sell setup. This was a sell. I don't know. This was an old one, I think. I can't remember when that was. That was a sell setup, pull back sell. You got this, pull back sell. Put an entry here for the sell. So put an entry under this low. We're looking at this running flat, right? We're looking at this as a possible running flat. Let's see if there is any setback to that, which means, is there a chance that it could just tag the low and go back up? You go to the higher time frame, 1 hour, where we think it's going. I know it's going lower. It's not that it can't pull back, but I don't think they're trying to do that. We do have divergence here. You do have divergence here, so you'll just take it with caution. Divergence is just a point of caution. Right? Should this go back up, it's going to be better a trade for us. If this goes back up here, we'll just take this as the running flat. We'll pull an extended running flat here. And we'll take this as a separate flat of its own for the sell. This would be a better trade for us if it goes back up. Because this flat is a safer flat to trade in this sense, right? Because we have divergence here. After that correction, it's going to drop. So let it go back up, and we're going to pull it like this. And then this becomes the best sell setup. We're going to put this running flat with either this one or that one. It wouldn't make a difference. I think you can pull all three together because this is more corrective. You can pull all of this together. If it starts going the other direction, look for a channel. I think we can channel this. Maybe not as yet, because this is outside the channel. So if it drops again, then we'll consider the channel. So right now, there's a sell setup there. Let's see what else we're looking at. What else we have? I know these webinars are long, but I keep adding some educational pieces for the traders who are new to here and who don't have any, thing. Somebody want Bitcoin. So for my traders, tell me now what you want. We have CAD news today. Okay, thanks, Avidu. Let me see what time we have CAD news. I forgot to take a look at the news today. What time we have it? Oh, 3:30. Okay. Now the question is whether we trade the CAD news on YouTube. That's the whole question here. We will be in the YouTube, but do we want to take that trade? And then we'll decide. So here's the thing. If you're watching YouTube and you're one of the people who follow us, join us this afternoon. We might show you how we trade momentum trades. It's like super high risk. So I would advise you to just watch us do it. Don't join in. Even my traders who are new in the group, we always let them watch. You need to watch us do that for like 10 times before you feel you can do it. Right? It's not that easy to do. So, okay, with that said, let's go. Tell me what are the trades you guys want to see. I'm looking at both chats, the chat that we have in our group, which is the Zoom chat, and I'm looking at this. So let me know. Bitcoin. Somebody want Bitcoin. Let's go take a look at Bitcoin. I don't want to do everything because the webinar gets super long. The idea is for the people on YouTube not to find a trade, but to figure out how wave analysis works. Finding a trade is not. So right now we're at this point. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to watch this. Remember, we're trying to break out of this structure, right? But because this had a deeper correction here, and I would probably put it like this, probably put it like this as an expanding flat. The chances are it can come right back down here and then go. Retest this low, right? Because of this deep correction inside of here. Like when you got this one here, see we drop. When you got this one here and you got this one here, it drop again. So when you got this here, assuming it could drop again, right? So let's say it's going to, and the breakout doesn't mean anything because remember this one broke out. See when you had that 1, 2, 3, look, this broke out. But what happened? It dropped. So you pull this broke out. The line is irrelevant. You're not looking at a line. The line is only a sense of direction, right? It's not that it's going to do it. So here, what you're going to do first, you're going to look for one out of two things. You're going to wait to see whether this consolidates here a lot. And if it does, we'll put an entry above here for the next impulse up. But if for any reason we get a drop and we get a flag, we're selling it back to the bottom. Right? So if it make drop and make a flag, then you can sell back to trading it right now is I don't think it's a good idea. You might think that's a small running flip, but I don't think so. That's just a smaller pullback. So we just wait. Let's see if it consolidates, or if it drop and consolidate, then we get a trade. Eventually, this will go out. Eventually, I explained that yesterday, right? Eventually, this is going to go out because we're in, you see this correction I just showed you here? Look at the bigger version of that. A bigger version of that is this one. See? So every time you make a flat inside here, it made 1, 2, 3 go back. Well, this one is a little catchy because we know this was going to make 1, 2, 3 and come here. Now you have 1, 2, 3. This could have go out of this structure. But because you end up with a correction inside of it, they just go break the top and came back. Now, this one here is not very corrective. You can see that it's not super corrective. I thought this would break out. Honestly, I thought that one would break out because we have enough here, but then it kind of dropped really sharp. And now that you're here, the probability of this going out is much higher because this correction in here is not as big as this, just like this one, right? You had a small running flat inside. You see that small correction there, and you had a smaller one in here. So this one eventually, if it does come back to the bottom here, will be a better trade for you. Oh, 1 second. I'm just, yeah, if this one comes back here, the trade is a better trade for us because now we will take the trade from here going out. When it gets to the top here, we will see what happens. Does it come back or does it go out? You can put this entry if you think this is going to take off. The safe entry is putting an entry above the last impulse, which is here. And that entry is if you're long term, which means if you have to keep a bigger stop because you wanted to actually do that. So your stop is like, I will exit here or I'll wait for a proper exit somewhere here. But if it comes back, if you want the safe entry, wait for a flag here and then take that flag, or let it come back to the bottom and wait for this to go. See? It all depends on how you trade, what strategy you're using, what's your skill level, what's your knowledge, how do you understand this is going to go, right? A lot of it depends on all of that. But the bigger picture upside, if you're long-term on Bitcoin, like you're a big investor, it's upside. Right? So I don't know, you're long. If you already have some Bitcoin and you think, you know what, I think I can hold it because I bought it at 1,000, just keep it. It's going to go more. The longer term picture is upside. But this consolidation here could still come back to this point. And then come here and still come back here and then go. Right? Or I hope this one is going to take off. There's a very strong probability of that taking off. Okay, what else? Let's go. What else you guys want to look at? Tell me what you want to look at. We'll go take a look very quick. So let's go back to the euro. Remember, I tell you, we'll keep track of the euro for you before we close the session. We go back to the 5 minutes for the sell. Okay, so it is going up, right? It is eventually going up, like we said, right? Because the dollar index is dropping. So if you closed it, you did the right thing. If you didn't put the entry order in, you did the right thing. It's breaking the top. If you didn't close it, that would be a loss. So I hope you close that because eventually we saw it when we look at the dollar index that this was going to drop. See? So we took off the euro in that sense because then it's not going to go up. This should go up. It didn't pull back. That is not a trade. Don't take this trade unless you're in the trade earlier. And by in the trade earlier would mean somewhere here. If not, don't buy that because eventually it will pull back. Eventually that will pull back before it goes. You're looking at Aussie for a buy. Do we have a buy on the Aussie? No. No, don't buy the Aussies yet. This is too sharp. That is not going to be a buy setup. Right? So wait for it. This is going to pull back. At some point, watch the top. You need to look at the top. It can even break the top, but it will pull back. So don't buy it as yet. Right? You want this to actually just come here, maybe come here and then pull back here. This would be the trade. So we'll get that trade this afternoon. Let me put an arrow. We'll see if it happens, right? Even if it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter, but you're not buying this until you get a pullback to this point. And the New Zealand would be the same thing. No, New Zealand you can actually buy, but there isn't any setup here, right? You ought to be in the trade already. Let it pull back some more here, give you a small flag here, and then you can buy it. This doesn't have to pull back deep. unless it's making this really big pullback, and that's a whole different story. So for now, this is any pullback you buy. Cat is a sell, you should be in it already. If you didn't take that one, wait for another flag. That is this one here. We're not putting it because I wasn't there when it happened, but this would have been an easy trade. Right, that would have been a very, very easy trade for anyone. Swiss dropped already. We were not there. We were trading these two up yesterday, which you would have closed, but this one would have been your trade. And let's go with yen. Keep this entry because I wouldn't be surprised if they drop through the bottom. You'll just have to keep a bigger stop, which means a smaller entry. XRP USDT. We have the XRP USD. Isn't the same thing? Or is it much difference? We can take a look at that for you. I'm going to look at the daily first because I haven't looked at this chart before. So we've got this here. Right, you're looking at this first. We did break this low. So what you're going to look at is you're going to look at it two ways. You see you broke that low, right? So you had an impulse. You got a correction. You came down, you broke the low once. You came down, you broke the low twice. Now, the assumption is that this could go out of the structure. If you're looking at this as 1, 2, 3. Now, this looks very corrective to me. It doesn't look like it's ready to go. Right? So my thought process will be, well, wait a second. Is this still all the correction, even though we broke the low? Could it still be part of the correction? You've got a very nice pullback here, which is not encouraging for upside. And that means that, there is a good chance you could be looking at all of this as more of a flat, which means this could come back here and then go back up. Right? All of this could still be correction. As for the trade setup for the moment, let's go back to the 1 hour. This was a buy setup. I could see this. This was the low, so it made sense. You can look at this as the flat. You can make an argument for this as being an expanding flat there. You could probably expect this to go up. You just need it to go there, come back here, make a flat, and then go. So I will wait for this to pull back a little and then look for the buy setup. Even if it's short term, it will come back to this stop. It will come back here. So if you're looking at it as a short-term buy, then you're looking at it to come back to this stop here, somewhere like, I don't know if this is the one that'll do it. If it goes there, let it go without you. Right? But if it pulls back first and then go, let it come here and then see if it comes back to the low before you go up. I think this will stay here for a longer time. It's a more complex pattern forming here. Although we broke the low, that doesn't mean anything at the moment. It could be a running flat. Can this actually go to this point here and then come back sharp like this, give you this flat? I think that is a possibility. So let's wait and see. The bigger picture is not upside. There is no upside big picture as yet. All of this here is consolidation. This entire thing is consolidation. So when it gets there and it comes back here, it is definitely going to go back up. Only this time you'll end up with something like this. And you come back here. Maybe then we get this. Right? Because if you complete this as a 1, 2, 3, then this up move is likely going to happen for this one. So there's no big up move coming anytime soon. It's going to happen probably if it doesn't crash before then. I don't see any really, really big up move. Although we broke that low, I still don't see this. This is not going up the way it should go up, right? So what is your view on Euro Oz on a long-term scale? Downside. Euro Oz is down. Euro Oz. Oh no, that's the Euro. That's the Aussie New Zealand. Sorry, let me go back to the Euro Oz. The Euro Oz. Let's go see what's the long-term in the Euro Oz. I think you want the daily, weekly. The weekly, monthly. Let's go to weekly, monthly. Well, it all depends on how you look at this structure because this sharp move here that came down, right? You could either put it with this one as an running flat and this go break that top and then come back here. So longer term, we're trying to come back to this point. That's one because let me get, if you want like really long term, we need to know where this comes from. I'm looking at this at a point. Let's see if we can find the euros and the IC. I'll give you a more accurate one. So here's a more accurate one, what it should do, right? We had this charts earlier. So I'll put it in the monthly. So I don't know where all of this stuff come from. But the assumption we have, regardless of what that is doing, is that you have this sharp one, you have that one up, and you're making this one. So this should come back to this point at least and then go, right? Because this is too small. If not, it's still in this correction. So if you're looking at a flat and this, because we broke out of whatever that was, this should make a flat that comes here. What if this was the very, very last impulse of a move coming here? Right? I don't know where that came from. So we'll have to figure out, right? But if for now, we're looking at it as a possible flat, because this one is sharp. So the expectation is that this should come back here, right? This should make a consolidation here and come back here. That's the expectation. If the only way we can be wrong about that is that this was the absolute low and this chart came from here. So if this was a correction here and this was an impulse into this, then this is actually going up. And in that case, this belongs to a flat that is going to form here. We will only see that flat after this works its way up here, come back here and then go. Right? So let me see if I can get that. So if this comes from here, then this one is actually going up, right? This would be the absolute low. And this would be one. This one is going to consolidate its way here, come back here, make a flat in here, and then go. Right? That's one option if you look at it that way. The second one is that this came from the bottom here. And this was a flat in here, and this was the top. So this is a 1, that is a 2. And we're trying to come back here before we go. So which one is it? Unless we know where this come from, top or bottom, we wouldn't know. But in terms of the daily structure, let's go back to where it's more real, where we have information that we can work with. In terms of the daily structure, this is the top. We have divergence, and this is coming back really sharp. So expect this to, at some point, probably make a consolidation. This is the entire move up, right? This was your consolidation. And this is the top of the structure of this slope node. So I wouldn't be surprised if this comes back and retests at least this low. So what's the confirmation for that? You want something like this. So you want this to make a flag here. And you go back into the 4-hour and said, if we get a good flag there, would we sell it? And I think we did. We got this one. So we're selling this downwards and see how far that goes. I hope that helps you, right? I hope that kind of helped. So right now, what we're doing is we're trading this downwards to see if it's going to break that low, and then we'll see what happens from that point. So you go back to the 15 minutes, 1 hour, and you look for sell setups. Now, since we trade very short term, like I said, let this consolidate here, and then look for a sell setup. You could put an entry under the low and put a stop here. That's a good trade if you want. You can put an entry here. Let's say you think it's going to drop without you. You can put an entry here, put a stop here, and then see how far that drops. I hope that helps. Okay, anything else? Okay, guys. I would see all of you this afternoon. Don't forget to pass the news around. Invite traders. We're here for an hour, 15 minutes. I don't mind staying on, but I think a lot of you have things to do and you might be busy. So I'll see you this afternoon. And don't forget to watch the previous videos, share them and like them. If you leave a comment, that will help the video to, help more people to see the video. Basically, the more people who see it, the better the chance are you're going to save a trader from himself. Yep, he will be making a mistake right now until he watched the video and said, wait a second. That happened to me once when I was on TradingView. One guy was selling gold and I had a chart. I just posted a chart to buy gold. And he looked at it and he was like, wait a second, why the hell is he buying gold when I'm in the selling gold? His sell wasn't really going that great. So he ended up taking a $10,000 loss on that sell. So he went back and he keep analyzing all my charts and trying to figure out why was he trying to buy gold when I was losing on the sell? I can't understand. And then he came and he bought my course immediately because the money 2005 wasn't any problem for him. So he paid for the course. He wanted to get my thought process. Turned out to become an amazing trader. He was really a good, very, very good trader. Because he starts to figure out, okay, I get what you're saying now. At one time, he was actually, it's a guy from Singapore. At one time, he was actually helping training the traders as well. We have a lot of traders like that in the group now who does that thing. I think right now he's doing his own thing. He had some business. I mean, people are gonna stay forever, right? Once they get good at trading and they got the knowledge, they'll move on to do their own thing, whatever they're doing. But there are a lot of good traders who stick around long enough to help struggling traders. So if you need the help, let us know. Thank you for your time, and I would see all of you this afternoon. Take care. Thank you. Bye.